Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pastured Pig Podcast. I know I say this a lot about being excited about the person I'm about to talk to, but my excitement never ends. It's just real fun talking with everybody across the country about their operations. And this evening, I don't think we're going to have any disappointments. I'm really excited to introduce everyone to John Tamblyn. And John's with Tamblyn Family Farms, and that is in, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Manteno, Illinois. How do you pronounce that, John?
Manteno, that's correct.
Manteno, Illinois. Okay, well, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, okay, so Manteno, Illinois, I was looking at that on a map. That doesn't look like that's very far from Chicago, is it?
No, we're roughly 45 miles south of Chicago, so it's a nice flat black dirt, and it's a nice farming area, but yet we're close to the city. So
excellent. So
good opportunity.
So 45 miles, is that about a 6-hour drive then?
Well, it depends when you leave. Right.
Exactly. You could do it in 40 minutes, or you could do it in 5 hours.
Yep.
Well, okay. Well, let's do this. If you don't mind, give us an overview about your farm and your operation there.
All right, we're here in Manteno, and we raise non-GMO outdoor hogs, farrow to finish, and we raise Katahdin sheep, and we're on 25 acres, and we make non-GMO feed here as well.
Yeah, wow, there's a lot there. So making the non-GMO feed. So explain that a little bit. So when you say you're making it, to what degree you're making it? Just for your own animals' consumption, or are we talking large production mill here?
Well, it's not large production, but it is production for our animals and for others. We moved back to the farm. I went to school in agriculture and work in agriculture, and moved back here to the farm probably about 8 years ago. And the local big box ag stores, the feed just wasn't of good quality, so that started our quest to use the old crib here and the old grain bins and just start putting together and making our own feed. And we found the organic route was a little too expensive for us and for some other producers, so we went with the non-GMO route, and everything's grown locally here. And we actually have an extruder, so we make our own soybean meal without hexane solvents or anything like that. It just uses the extrusion process to heat and cook the meal. And then we have farmers grow non-GMO corn and oats for our other ingredients, alfalfa meal and such. So we make it start to finish here for ourselves, and we are licensed, so we're in 4 states right now, and here for our own stock.
Okay, so just so I understand better, is how would you track production levels? Is that the tonnage per year? Is that a metric that you all use to measure?
Yes, and our tonnage per year would be extremely small. We make feed right now for about maybe 2 dozen other small scale non-GMO outdoor pig and poultry producers, mostly here in our area. We really haven't launched up. This has just kind of been a labor of love that's been growing as we've been putting the roller mill together and the extruder, and everything's been rebuilt, and we're kind of just really getting ready to expand.
Interesting. So when it comes time, so you're acquiring some of you're not growing everything yourself, of course, so you're acquiring from local farmers. How did those relationships get started? How did you reach out? Were they already growing non-GMO, or did you convince them to switch?
It seems like a lot of farmers, grow most of their farm is conventional, but there's a non-GMO elevator not too far away, and they always want to try, farmers want to try new things or old things again, I guess, with the non-GMO corn, but they are usually already growing some non-GMO corn. So I grew up around here, so I know most of them, so I just kind of make an introduction and see if we can work together.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about your hogs. What breed are you raising? What's your take on the specific breed? Is there a certain mix you found that you appreciate?
Well, there is. We started with just a pure large black because it's a docile pig and has a big litter size, and I just found them interesting. And then what we found out with our farmers market customers and stuff, and with raising them, they just kind of grew too slow, and they were a little too fatty for our, I guess you'd say suburban customer, because the large black pig was really designed as a lard pig. So what we did then is we crossed the large black pig with the Berkshire, which again, if you're doing a Chicago farmers market, people may have heard of the Berkshire as far as an outdoor pasture pig. And what we found there is it improved our meat quality a whole lot, but the litter size was still kind of small. So then we think we finally got it figured out here in the last 18 months or so, is we got a Duroc boar. So then our sows and gilts are large black crossed with the Berkshire, and then we breed that to a Duroc boar. So we've got a very durable, rugged pig.
Yeah. So what kind of litter sizes are you seeing now?
Oh, we can get 10 or 12 pigs.
Very good.
So usually 6 to 10.
Yeah. So how many sows are you breeding on yearly usually?
Right now we've got about 22, 23 sows.
All right. And all serviced by one boar? Do you have multiple boars there?
We have 3 boars. We got a smaller young Duroc cross. We've got a Berkshire, and we've got a Duroc.
Okay. So you mentioned you all were farrow to finish. So are you selling most of those to individual customers, wholes and halves? Are you doing cuts? Are you wholesaling?
We have found everything that to sell for, like I mentioned, our location here, 45 minutes from Chicago, and we're kind of in a bedroom community where people do commute back and forth to the city, and there's not a lot of production livestock. There's still a whole lot of corn and beans and a lot of farmland, but the people don't really know, and they're not real interested in what to do with the pig's feet, or the pork shank scares them. So we have found that everything we have we go to a federal inspected slaughterhouse, and everything is packaged and cryovac in a clear see-through package. So I'm a pretty good salesman, but it's hard for me to sell through that white paper at the farmer's market.
Right.
So when I lay my bacon down there, or our bacon from our outdoor hogs, I really got something to sell off of there with that clear package. So we sell everything as individual cuts, and they buy what they want, and it doesn't take up their freezer space, and that's just how it works for us. I know it's different in different parts of the country, but and then as we've grown, we have too many pigs for the farmers markets, and we hooked up with a company called Nyman Ranch, which is a network of they work with independent outdoor hog farmers, and then so we sell live hogs to them as well.
Okay, and man, I think we could spend an entire podcast just talking about working with Nyman and the pros and cons of that. So just kind of an overview. You're with Nyman, you are selling them live hogs, and I assume you have a specific goal that you have to meet as far as weight and the number of hogs, all that.
All the above. They've got actual field reps, field service reps that cover. There's one here that covers Illinois, and she was here yesterday, actually, a young grad from Iowa State University in animal science, and she raises hogs at her home farm down near Peoria. And she was out for her farm visit yesterday. They come out 3 to 4 times a year and look everything over. We're care certified, so everything's humane, and we have the certification. All their growers do, and they help us with that. And she goes over our numbers and our estimates, and then when we sell, they'll pay off of I guess you call it a matrix, but they'll pay us, actually over our market, our target goal, if the yield and the weight and the fat and everything on our hogs meets the criteria. So they've really got a good settlement system. They've been around 20 years already, so they've kind of got it figured out. This will be our third season working with them. So that's really helped us to grow and to have a network of resources. And when they have a vet on staff, so we're able to make a call at any time free of charge. So
really,
it's really been a win-win.
Wow. Yeah, that free vet would come in handy for sure. So, so let's look at that then. So if, are you finding that the majority of the hogs that you're producing, are you preparing those for Nyman and then secondary is your individual cut sales, or is it 50-50? How are you balancing that out?
It is right now. It's probably 80% for Nyman right now. I do have a regular non-farm or agricultural day job. I sell ag fertilizer, but I'm blessed to get to work from the farm here, so I'm around here quite a bit. That, and then we try to work on our facilities. I guess you'd call it a facilities upgrade. I've been doing the last 18 months. So we've done a few less of the farmers markets, and our packing house is about an hour and a half away. So that's 3 hours round trip, to take them down and then to go back and get them. So we've done a little less of the retail, and now we're just getting ready. I just went to the locker plant yesterday and dropped off some more because we got our facilities where we want them for the most part. And now we'll be able to do some more farmers markets and retail direct to customers.
Okay. All right. Well, so so many questions. Where to begin? Okay. One thing I had in my notes here that you've said a couple times here, and I'm going to have to ask you about it to explain. You've mentioned multiple times you use the term outdoor hogs. Is there a differentiation between an outdoor hog and a pasture? Is that something that you guys coin? Is that something that Nyman says, hey, this is what we want to call this? And is there a difference?
Well, I don't really know that there's a difference. Maybe that's just me saying it. A lot of Nyman growers, we don't, just because we don't have any hoop buildings, but a lot of Nyman growers will grow in a hoop building because they're in a colder climate. I think that, and then there's an outdoor area off of that hoop building where the hogs go. And that's usually more for the finishing, but I guess maybe I wouldn't call that one a pastured pig because he's more of an outdoor pig, if that makes sense.
And so in that situation, you say you guys aren't under a hoop house or anything like that. You're actually out on pasture, or how do you?
Correct. Ours are out on pasture, and then like our gestating sows are out, and then our gilts that are coming up are out, and then but when they farrow, they're out. And then like some of our finishing pigs are in some bigger pens that we rotate. I guess that's a good way to say it.
So does Nyman dictate, since you're farrow to finish, does Nyman dictate this is how you need to farrow? We expect this, want your farrowing huts to be this size. How far do they get involved with the day-to-day process?
Not really very involved. As long they work with that CARE or the Humane Certified organization that everything meets humane standards as far as the pen size, the farrowing pens and stuff. But we don't have a central farrowing house, and we have individual huts and stuff. And as long as those meet the size requirements, Nyman really doesn't care. And if I chose to just do large black pigs, they really wouldn't care about that, but it would only hurt me because they would be too fatty. You know what I mean? So they make you be a better hog farmer by wanting to improve your genetics and your rate of gain, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I've definitely, with these line of questions, kind of gone down further down the line here. If we could, let's back up a little bit. So you've talked about you grew up in the area you're in. You have a day job selling ag fertilizer. So it sounds to me like you've kind of been entrenched in agriculture since day one. How much experience do you have with raising pigs? Have you done this all your life? Was this new venture for you?
It is a relatively new venture. I've always had livestock. I guess I had chickens since kindergarten, and I had some feeder pigs when I was in high school for 4-H and FFA, but then that's been 30 years now. And we started, when we came back to the farm, we started with the Katahdin sheep, and those were basically just a hardy lawnmower, and we really liked those. But the lamb, the ewe will have 1 to 2 lambs a year. versus a pig will farrow twice, and you get 6 to 10 pigs per litter if you do it right. And we found that the demand for pork was much larger than the demand for lamb. So we still got some sheep, and we've raised turkeys and chickens and all those things over the years, and we still keep a few so I can try out our non-GMO feed right here on our own, pastured chickens, etc. But I love livestock, which is fun, and I like being outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So let's talk about the feed experience. Come back around that track again. And this is like a Michener novel. We're going all over the place. Stream of consciousness here with questions. But so starting your own feed mill, where did you get your experience? Was it just jumping head first and coming up with all these mixes and blends? Did you professionally trained? I assume there's quite a bit that goes into that to making sure you're formulating the right feed.
Well, I guess there is, and again, I've always been in ag sales and production. I worked at a grain elevator, and I work at a fertilizer dealer plant, and I've always liked livestock, and my grandpa had a dairy here at the farm when I was a kid, so I was always around the feed and everything. But I really got most of my feed knowledge. My wife says if all the books next to my side of the bed tipped over, I'd be crushed. But I've got the old books from the 1940s, 50s, like basically 1940 through the early 80s, before there was distiller dried grains and other roughage byproducts when they used the whole kernel. So that's how we've developed all of our recipes, if you will. We make about 16 different feeds right now. But we use the whole kernel of corn. We're not using the distiller's grain after they've made ethanol, and we don't use the soybean meal after they've removed all the oil for cooking oil. We use the whole bean like they used to, and these types of livestock, the older school breeds, I have found, I guess it's my experience, is that they do better on that. So that's kind of how we've picked up how to make the feed, and then we send it off. There's laboratories where you can have it tested so that my bag tag actually, what's in the bag is what's on the tag.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I'm sure there's probably some. I figure you probably run into some debate over the size of your grind. I was looking on your website here, looking at your pig finisher picture, and that seems like a pretty coarse grind there. Do you hear people? Do you get any pushback about digestion and absorption on that larger grind, or does that ever come up?
That's a very, very fitting topic, because the Nyman rep was here yesterday, and she was all happy. She got a new kit that checks your micron size of the fineness of your grind. And I actually listened to her from when she was out here 3 or 4 months ago, and we're all the way to 800 or 900 microns, so it's really a lot finer, I guess, than what you saw in that picture.
Okay.
And what they've determined doing their studies is that you get a lot better absorption, and the pigs don't separate out. They really like that soybean meal, the extruded soybean meal. So if you have your corn particle too big, they'll just make a big mess and eat up all the soybean meal. So we have adjusted that grind size from what you saw in that picture.
Okay, so that's good. So Nyman is giving you feedback. They're obviously using their resources to say, hey, here's where you can tweak to get better production, better results, so that you can go ahead and change your screen size to do all the things you need to do to meet their recommendations.
Correct.
Okay, and so while we're on the subject of this, looking at the website here, so and again, this is my ignorance, because as we talked before we started recording, my source for feed for my pigs is very limited. We have just a large commercial feed mill, so when I want hog feed, I get what they got pretty much. So when I look at my tag, it has a very long list of ingredients that you need to have a phonetic dictionary to be able to pronounce most of them. But when we look at your pig finisher here on your website, what ingredients are we talking about here?
You're talking about the whole kernel of corn ground to the proper micron size, like you're saying, and then I'm opening up a tag here, but it's then it's the full fat non-GMO extruded soybean meal, and conventional soybean meal in the feed that you're feeding has the oil removed, so it's approximately 2% fat, whereas when you leave it all in, when we use extrusion, it's up to 18%. So there's just, and the fat is a calorie, so it's just tremendous, the results you see on those pigs when they're eating that full fat extruded meal.
So does that translate over to percentage of protein when you're talking about fat and calorie? When we're saying a 12% hog finish, are you saying that this is a higher percentage of protein per se?
Our protein is a little higher. Yeah, we run probably more of a 14 on when we do the complete finisher.
Okay.
14, and then when they're a little bit smaller, we'll have it all the way up to a 16%. But yeah, our ingredients, we've got cracked corn, full fat extruded meal, non-GMO alfalfa meal. The kelp meal is a big one for your trace minerals, and it's natural. And they won't use kelp meal in your conventional ration because of the cost. And we're going for quality, not for cost. So, and then we add the calcium and the limes in the form of limestone, salt, and vitamin supplements if needed. So that's the only ingredients in our pig feed.
Man, that's excellent. That sounds great. That makes me wish I was a bit closer. I like the price too. If I'm not going to put you on the spot there because I know you're talking about updating some of your websites. I won't put you on the spot there on the air to say what you charge for all that. But
no, but our goal. But it's a good point though. But the whole point of doing it is I can raise a lot of pastured chickens, or I can raise more pastured pigs or whatever. But I like spending time at the feed mill because I'll get other young growers that'll come by, and they'll actually be able to afford to raise 500 pastured broilers on a nice, fresh, non-GMO ration versus having to go organic or having to get something that may be a little bit out of date from the big box ag store that's basically roughly the same price as ours. So.
Yeah. I mean, looking at, and again, I won't nail you down on numbers, but looking at the pricing on your website, you're only 20% more than what I'm paying for conventional feed for your non-GMO, much cleaner ingredients. So, to me, that would be very enticing if I was in your neck of the woods.
Well, good. That's our goal, and we are working with. The ag fertilizer in my J job is actually, we bag it in 50-pound bags for lawn and garden. So I've actually got a lot of experience with LTL shipping, where they'll ship just a few pallets affordably. So I really do want to be able to expand it to other growers that appreciate the quality and freshness of a local feed.
So you mentioned you were licensed in, was it 4 states, I believe?
Yep, I think it's Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa right now.
So is that a very big ordeal saying, okay, I want to start pushing feed into this state? Is that a big ordeal to go through for licensing, or is that fairly
simple? It's really
simple?
not. You just talk to the state, like it would, in your case, it'd be the West Virginia Department of Ag is where I would make the first call, and they would direct us and guide us. Everybody's been very helpful with getting set up in these various states.
Very good. So what are your plans going forward? Is it is your existing setup, is it very scalable? So is this something you can say, hey, we're looking to produce 200% more next year, or is it a 10% or 20% increase next year?
Yeah, it could easily be a 200% increase because everything was set up. Like the extruder can run 24 hours a day, and the mill is a capacity that can really get some volume done. So I'm just running in a few hours a week for our own livestock, and then a few more hours a week for our existing customers. So there's plenty of time and a bit capability and size to make more bags.
Well, I assume, and again, I think this is something we'll have to have you back on for another podcast to really dive deep into this because I realize I'm really geeking out on this quite a bit, but. Do you find with having your mill and having the access to the ingredients that you do you kind of go mad scientist at time and go over here and kind of, okay, let's try this mix, because you mentioned trying some stuff on your chickens. Do you venture out much with that?
Well, it's kind of neat. We got a lady that raises white-tailed deer, and they weren't Oh, their condition. Their coat wasn't sleek and shiny like you might see. You probably see quite a few deer where you are.
Yeah.
Around here, they're kind of an oddity, because it's kind of flat and not a lot of trees and such here. But she has them as pets and such. And she found I found made up a ration, and we found that with that much higher fat, there's 9 times more fat in that soybean meal. That her deer just look as sleek as could be. So I think that's kind of the most far out recipe we have right now is a deer blend. And then we have like a multi-purpose that a lady uses for her alpaca, and she's got really good results with that. And that's, the other thing in there is whole oats. Whole oats are important for your starter pigs and for your chickens and your hens to prevent feather picking and such. And there's not a whole lot of oats grown around here. And again, your big feed mill wouldn't want to put oats in there because it's another product and they're expensive.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Yeah. So you've got quite a few blends that you've come up with for multiple needs, obviously multiple species. It looks like you could probably even spread that out more if you wanted to grow in increasing your blends and custom mixes.
One thing Nyman had recommended, and it just time and energy hasn't allowed for it yet, or the need, because we're making our own feed to feed our pigs. But they say, you can break that finishing ration down into 4 or 5 different stages if you want to change it. So, we could make more of a starter ration and then a finishing ration and a sow ration. So there's a whole lot of blends a guy could make, and like you said, to go mad scientist and really do it. So. I really enjoy it, I guess, is why I do it.
Excellent. Well, and that kind of segues into, I think you touched on this a little bit, but let's take this question head on. So what does a typical farm day look like for you? You talked about you've got a day job. That day job allows you to be on the farm quite a bit. So what's a day in the life for John?
Well, we do a morning check of chores and everything and make sure everybody's got water and doing okay, and see if we had any new litters over the night. Which is one of the things I really like about the pastured outdoor, farrowing and such is they're really unaided. In a conventional system, you got to be there when she's farrowing and to get better results. But so then after morning chores, I'll do my emails and phone calls and such, and then head out to the mill and work on what needs to be worked on and fill the orders. So. It's a lot of fun being able to go outside every day. That's kind of one of the main things that I like about just farming and livestock farming in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Even in the dead of winter, it's still nice to be outside. I'd rather be outside than sitting at a desk. But
that's for sure.
Well, okay. So when you're finished, when your hogs are ready to go to Nyman or they're ready to come pick them up, how does that get orchestrated? I assume you guys schedule well in advance. They send in one truck, multiple trucks. How does that work out?
One nice thing about that is, they'll pick up as little as 20 head on the farm. So the truck will run out from Iowa and make a route to pick up. And I think he ends up with probably 140, 150 pigs on the truck. And he'll stop by here, and they're super courteous and knowledgeable, and they know their route is that if he's going to be here at 3:00, he's here by 3:05. And what we do then is we have loaded the hogs in the night before or that morning in our bumper pull trailer, and they pull into so the semi pulls into the farm, and we set our homemade loading ramp up to his back end of his truck, and we back our bumper pull trailer up to the other end of it, and we can run them out of there real quick. And there's no, you always worry about going from farm to farm, but he never actually comes up into our farm. We leave that down on the road, so there's no, everybody else's germs are at their house.
Man, that was the very next question on the tip of my tongue. I was going to say, well, what about biosecurity, John? Okay, so that's great. So you've obviously been thinking about that, and you kind of keep him at arm's length when it's time to actually do the transfer.
Yes, and I'll admit that we learned that though after he helped us one time, and then my wife kind of mentioned, that he had tromped through his, if he helped the last guy load over and he was in Indiana or whatever, then you got the Indiana germs now here on your farm. So we kind of made some modifications, and they're very helpful about it and stuff. So yeah, now the driver stays in his truck, and we do all the legwork on the ground and give him a wave, and away he goes.
Yeah, well, that's good that they work with you on that. And again, everybody's in that situation. Both sides have everything to lose, and nobody has anything to gain. So working together to give everyone that peace of mind that biosecurity is taken care of is good. Well, as far as your pasture setups go, are you doing a rotational process? You said you had 25 acres. Do you find there? We'll see where you are in northern Illinois. You've got a pretty good rotation of 4 seasons. So do you have a rotation schedule with your pigs? Do you have a sacrificial area in the winter?
We do have a sacrificial area in the winter that probably should get rotated out of more often than it does. And we do have, worms, so everybody gets wormed. And we do get their vaccinations so that we keep our litter size up because we are only on 25 acres, and half of that is in, I guess you'd call it a permanent pasture, because this time of year it'll get 3 feet of water on it for a couple of days, and the pasture's fine, but you don't want to be farrowing pigs out in that. So
yeah, I think everything has 3 feet of water on it right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So going forward, I think we've touched on this a little bit. What plans do you see? Do you have a 5-year plan when it comes to your feed operation, the size of your hog production? Are you looking at growth in all those areas? Are you looking at maybe venturing into some new areas that don't necessarily even associate with pigs at that point?
I really like the feed and the pigs. So I've kind of focused. We've given up, like I said, most of our poultry. And we cut back on our sheep. We've only got maybe 17 ewes, and we had 45, just so that we could focus more on getting the facilities up and running, where if somebody needed a couple tons of feed, we could easily make that. Or if we did some more farmers market stuff, I'm able to have some nice farrowing huts where we can get a few more pigs out of each litter. So we're kind of trying to focus. I really have a tendency, and maybe that's just farming in general, but I have a tendency to get distracted.
Yeah, that's easy to do. My wife could definitely attest to that I am.
Yeah. So to answer your question, though, we have about 22 sows now, and I'd like 3 groups of 12. So yeah. I'm going to have 36 is what my plan would be as far as with and I think I have the infrastructure now to do that. Where there's, the gestation groups, there's 3 groups of 12, mm-hmm. and I can work that through our facilities now.
I see. So the purpose of the groups, is that for farrowing scheduling throughout the year? Is that for limiting genetics and kind of keeping different breeding results in those groups?
Really, mostly just for the scheduling for us, and it'll get more refined, I guess, as time goes, is my plan. But right now, I got the 22 in 2 groups, 11 and 11, and then I'll add some more. I'll keep back a few gilts, and I'm going to try to get in a few more to upgrade our genetics a little bit. We've had the best luck upgrading our genetics through the boar, because he's half of your herd. So we got a purebred boar, actually a Duroc boar from Iowa State University last spring, and that really filled in one of the missing pieces of our genetics puzzle as far as our meat quality and growth and litter size.
Yeah. How's he as far as temperament goes? The Durocs I've raised sometimes can be a little persnickety.
Well, it's kind of funny. His name is Hothead, and that's the actual pedigreed name on his paper. And if we had, I could get a picture of it to you, it'd be worth it, because he's like a big dog now. He's probably 650 pounds, and he's like a puppy dog. But, he had lived in a crate. He had sores on his shoulders from being in that small crate, being basically a confinement pig. But yeah. So he's not, his name is Hothead, but he doesn't live up to it. He's like a big dog.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that definitely puts your mind at ease on a lot of things with, especially when they get that size. All right. Well, one question I always I like to ask all of our podcast interviews is, what is your best experience or your favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
My favorite part would be being outside, followed up closely by when we're up at a farmer's market in Chicago and you're there the next week, and the lady comes back and she says that was just the best pork steak, or she'd never even had a pork steak. And then, my wife is a city girl, and she'd never had a pork steak, and that's her favorite cut of meat. She'd put that above a filet mignon any day. So I really like providing that healthy pork to our family and to our customers. So I like being outside, and I like growing healthy pork.
Well, very good. Well, John, as far as people being able to reach out and communicate with you, to visit your website to see information about your feed mill and your products there, where can people find you?
We're on TamblynFamilyFarm.com and Tamblyn Family Farm on Facebook. So reach out there and email us as well.
Okay. And so what I understand, again, with feed ordering, if any of our listeners are within those 4 states, then could they call and possibly order from you?
Oh, you bet. And don't be limited by the states. It's just we don't have customers in other states yet. I truly would be happy to ship you a pallet load of feed to West Virginia. So, don't be limited just by those 4 states, because it's relatively easy to get set up and get going. And we want to go through independent little small farms, and if there's a way they can add lots of people work a full day job and try to get their hobby farm or their homestead up and going, and if they could distribute our feed and make some extra money along the way, we're happy to help them do that. Okay, I see. So to make sure that we're clear on this, the people that are listening, even if you're not licensed in those 4 states, you're saying that, hey, inquire. Give us a call, and we can get that paperwork taken care of pretty quickly if you indeed want to order. That is correct. Okay, great. So everyone listening there, if you're outside of those 4 states that John talked about, give him a call. If you'd like to order some feed from him and get that process started, then you guys can possibly connect there with his feed source. And Troy, I will say too, there's a guest house here on our farm that if anybody wants to come see the operation or to come see the feed mill or has other questions, we recently had some guests come and stay through our extension agent. They were interested, and they spent the better part of a day here looking around and asking questions. So I do like to help other people be able to learn about pastured pigs. Excellent. So what we're saying, if everyone heard that, that's free room and board at Tamblyn Family Farm. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, we won't. We'll make sure people don't take advantage of that. No, that's great. And I appreciate your willingness to allow people to stay on farm, to look, to learn. I think that's what's really going to move our industry forward and get everybody on board with all the benefits of pastured pork, is when we share all our ideas. And obviously that's kind of the purpose of why we're doing this podcast, is just to get people talking about what I consider a superior process on raising hogs. That sounds great. I've really enjoyed visiting with you. All right. Well, we appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great evening. Take care. Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.